Hey, welcome to Marriage Monthly. We are Gabe and Melissa Kolstad, and we love to build healthy, lifelong marriages. That's what we're passionate about.
Very.
We are excited that you're joining us for this monthly installment of hopefully inspiration, ideas, and fun that will help build your marriage. And so we're going to jump into today's episode. Here we go.
Well, hello. Today we are talking about traditions are sexy. This is our November talk, and we were thinking about traditions because this is kind of the time where we have like Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, all these things coming up. And so we were just thinking, well, how do we make those stick? Like traditions are like glue. And what we were thinking is that they bring you together and they help you stick together. And so as a kid, I'll share one story because this is my favorite. My mom passed away 14 years ago, but my mom made the biggest deal out of Thanksgiving. It was like our big family thing. I mean, you were at lots of the Thanksgivings before my mom passed. Oh my goodness, we're talking, she wouldn't let anybody help. She did the whole shebang herself. We would always start out with the Macy's Day Parade, remember? That was like the first thing.
And the big newspaper.
Oh, no. The big newspaper was young people, you probably don't understand this.
The ads.
But the ads from the newspapers for Black Friday, we would scour that thing for hours because it was literally like 6 inches thick, right? So we would look through that forever. And then my mom would have the big meal. We would go around the table and say what we were each thankful for. That was one of the traditions as well. And so we had so much fun on Thanksgiving. And there was always football, even though I'm not a football fan. But the football game was always on in the afternoon.
At least the sound of it.
At least the sound. I could hear the yelling and screaming and touchdowns and things like that, even though I'm not into it. But one of my favorite things, and I absolutely loved it. It was my favorite day of the year. So I'm going to give you a couple things that just stood out to me about traditions. And the first one is traditions give you something to look forward to. I was thinking of Proverbs 29:18, without a vision, people perish. And I was just thinking about, I know that's not exactly what it's talking about is marriage, but if you have nothing to look forward to, you kind of give up because there's like nothing exciting next. And so traditions kind of fill that void. So that's fun. So we should plan events as a couple or as a family. And it's always fun to look ahead towards something. Always. I mean, I know that's just kind of my personality, but I'm assuming that everybody wants something to look forward to. So it's important to me. It helps you as a couple to bond, to be proactive. I love looking forward to things. So it gives us stuff to talk about, to organize, to plan. And it just brings you together. And so that's the first thing is traditions give you something to look forward to. And the second thing is traditions give you something to look back on. And this is helpful in dry or hard times. Sometimes we lose the drive to keep our marriages going and we need to look forward to something. And then we need to recreate the great times we had before. And this reminded me of Revelation 2:5. And I know that Jesus is talking about a church here, but he says to this church that was falling away from him, do what you did at first. And so to me, I was thinking, man, when marriages are kind of falling apart or you're kind of regressing, you're kind of bored, do what you did at first. What did you start doing when you were first together? What was the little fun traditions you did, little dates you did, little places you went, stuff like that. So that's what I was thinking. So when you feel like you're falling apart, do what you did at first. Build a stack of positive memories bigger than the stack of difficulties that you're facing right now. So make traditions that you can look forward to and have those memories in your back pocket that keep you solid and together, stuck together, keeps you happy as a couple. And you may be asking, well, what are some of your traditions? So I'm going to tell you some of our weird traditions. First of all, since we just had Halloween, Gabe's mom, we call her Mima, had the biggest Halloween parties always for the family. I mean, it was a big deal. She would make these crazy cakes, first of all, which were so much fun, usually involving carameled apples. She always do the carameled apples. Remember, hay rides when the kids were little, they'd all dress up to go to Mama's house. We'd do hay rides up and down their gravel road. Just some really, really fun stuff. So we love that. Christmas tree hunting after Thanksgiving. Okay, so the day after Thanksgiving, Gabe makes us go Christmas tree shopping. I hate it because I don't like mud. I don't like rain.
We don't go Christmas tree shopping. We go Christmas tree hunting.
Yeah, hunting. Yeah. No, we can't just go to the store and buy one that I look at and say, that's pretty, let's do that. No, we have to drag the entire family to a tree farm with a saw and find one in the middle of a tree farm and cut it down, put it on the top of the car and bring it home. Now, I love the tradition because my parents didn't do this tradition. So this is one that you brought into the family. It's a little stressful, and I'm usually on edge quite a bit. But when I look back and I look at my tree, I'm like, oh, okay, that was cool.
My favorite was last year because what we did was we went and we had this old pickup, and we took it up to this way out there farm. And we were looking for the biggest tree we could possibly get. And we ended up putting, I think it was a 21-foot tree in the back of this truck, driving it back to the house. And it was like, this big floppy armed
It had to have been illegal.
tree. And it was like touching all the cars next to us as we're driving back home. And people were looking at us funny.
We had to trim it down pretty
Oh my gosh, we had to trim it like so many times.
Yeah.
I think we got it down to 14 feet by the time
It
we
was
could finally stick it in.
It was Griswold all the way.
It was great.
And that's what that whole event reminds me of. But there's other stuff. There's other traditions. Apple picking in the fall, Tulip Festival in the spring, Black Friday shopping, Cyber Monday's more of our style.
For sure.
People make birthday cakes for Jesus at Christmas. We've gone down to see the Christmas ships on the Willamette. We're here in Portland, Oregon, so it's so much fun. Barbecues, birthday barbecues, New Year's Eve party at my brother's every year. That's what we do. Read the Christmas story from Luke 2 every Christmas. My dad does it, Gabe does it, so I hear it 2 or 3 times, and I love it. There's so many good things. We go find Christmas lights every year between Thanksgiving and Christmas. We go find Peacock Lane or any place that does Christmas lights. All that fun stuff. There's Super Bowl parties, there's yearly vacations, there's beach trip, overnighters to Bend and Seattle, all these kind of things. Since we live in Portland, that works for us. So make traditions. They bring you closer together. They're sexy.
Yeah, they are. I really like your points, and I think the idea of having something to look back on during those difficult times is really important, because it's really about comparison in those difficult times. You're going like, wow, I don't like where we're at right now. Yeah. But if you did say, but we've been in better places and we know how to get back there, I think that's really, really important. Yeah, because the next season the next season can bring dread, or the next season could bring excitement if we're looking forward to something that we've enjoyed before. Yes. And we know that's going to pull us kind of up out of a lull. I think that's a really great point that you made there. So love it.
Thanks.
Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the opposite side of this. Melissa and I are wired as complete opposites. In fact, just to be totally straight up, as she's sitting here talking about traditions and doing the same things over and over again, I'm just kind of like, oh gosh, do the same thing over and over again.
Except for the Christmas tree hunt.
I love but it changes the size. We can make it bigger, go to different things. Anyways, I like variety. And so traditions don't in and of themselves draw me. What does is consistent family time and an opportunity to make a new, memory or have a new adventure. So I kind of have to come at it from a different angle. And if maybe you're like me and you like variety more than you like consistency, I think the idea would be, insert a little bit like, how can we spice this up? What can we do different this time to celebrate the same event or the same season? But for me, she's all about planning these things. I'm always thinking about how are we going to pay for these things?
I don't think about that.
Yeah. Because, they, like going, on a little road trip, like it sounds fun, but I'm like, well, gas is $4 a gallon. You're going to stop all these times for big gulps and burritos and all this stuff. Gulps. And, it adds up. And I tend to think about, well, okay, that's a $700 idea. Where's that money going to come from? And so I want to just kind of talk a little about funding your traditions, because that's an important piece to this. There's the idea and then there's the funding. Yeah. And Melissa, by and large, is a more practical person than I am. But when it comes to the funding and the money, for some reason, that's kind of how we're wired. Like I'm always thinking about, I think I know how we could pay for this. So
yeah, that's not my box.
That's okay. I like that box. And so in Proverbs 27:23, the Bible says, know the state of your flocks. This is Proverbs, Solomon talking about, really he's talking about a household and an industrious kind of business-minded household, thinking about how do you make sure you can keep the family healthy and have a legacy to pass down. And he goes, well, you need to know the state of your flocks. Of course, that was an agrarian culture. They were talking about a literal flock of sheep. Yeah. And knowing, like, how's everybody doing? How are all the sheep doing? I think we could, kind of decipher all that and transition it to, we got to know where we're at financially. We need to know the state of each family member. How are they doing emotionally? Maybe they need a tradition. Maybe though we don't have a lot of money right now, maybe we need a memory right now. And that might be the case for some of you listening right now, is that we need to build a memory, And so it's about assessing the family's morale. I think that's the important thing. How do we assess our family's morale? And how do we assess our capacity to build that morale? That's going to come down to money. Is that if we don't have money, you can't make memories. I know that we can say they can be cheap, but the bottom line is overall, even a cheap memory does require you to take time off work, and there's sacrifices involved in it. And so
especially if you have to find childcare and you're doing a couple's beach trip away once a year. Yeah.
Yeah, it all adds up, and you do need to think about funding it. So let me give you a few ideas that we've collected over the years, things that have worked for us. First of all, would honestly be cutting expenses. Man, there's so many expenses we can cut. Even now, I look at some of the list of recurring subscriptions that we have, and I'm always thinking about, do we chop that one? In fact, recently we did cut one, and it was a pretty important one. But we were like, well, we can make the sacrifice because, we want to kind of see how simply we could live in one area of our lives. And we realized it was too simple. We had to bring it back. We didn't want to live without that subscription, but that's okay. At least we tried. And I think it's important to be willing to go like, let's get as close to simplicity as we can so we have margin. In our case, we start with giving. We just go like, look, it all comes from God. So we're going to give off the top. In our family, we believe in something called tithing, which is giving the first fruits, the first 10% of our income back to God. We add to that just because that's been our growth over the years. We started out tithing, we've added to that over the years. So, we love to be generous, but that's the beginning for us, is like we want to give and then we want to save. And so we think about give, save, and then spend. And so we've tried to live in our means, but actually well below our means.
Yeah.
We've lived consistently for the last 10, 15 years at about 70% of our income for our operating expenses as a family.
I think and on top of that, I was thinking about the subscriptions and things like that. It seems like we keep adding them. Like everybody keeps adding, let's add this, let's add, and we keep adding them, but then we never take anything away.
Yeah.
So the point is maybe look through your budget and your reoccurrings and be like,
for sure,
what are we not using and what can we get? Because $10 here and there and here and there, you can save yourself $50, $100 like that.
It adds up. And I think that's a really good point, is that you got to pay attention to your budget. I'm maybe a little bit obsessive. I look at this thing every single day, and I look at our bank accounts every single day. I don't know why. I guess maybe I could just sleep better at night. But I don't like I don't like surprises when it comes to finances, because every surprise takes a family memory away. It takes our freedom away, and I don't like that. So I want to catch those things. Maybe somebody's billed you for something that was an error, or, you've got a fee coming you didn't know about. And it happens all the time. So I want to encourage you to cut expenses, look for where you can chop things down, live more simply so you can actually live more intentionally and be more relational with your family, make more memories, have more traditions. That's important. The other thing about budgeting is this. I'm a big fan of budgeting, and I think a family needs a unified budget. I don't think there should necessarily be his money, her money. I think we ought to look at this as though we're a team.
That's right.
We have one budget. We operate on one budget. Yeah, there might be different accounts. I don't even like that personally. I like a shared checking account. I think it keeps people together and having to communicate about expenses. But one budget helps us to make sure we're marching together. And I think the other piece to budgeting, here's what we've done over the years. We've equalized everything possible. I mean, even to the point where in the summer, we're paying the same amount for our gas bill as we do in the winter. And the reason why is because then we can make sure that everything's equal. And then we're able to say, okay, then every month we also can put away this amount for memory making or for entertainment or for vacation, and so it's equalized and we can handle it better. There's no surprises. The other thing that I find is helpful, we used to be paid every week. And so that was actually very easy budgeting. Now we're paid every other week. But still, every few months, we have 1 month where there's not 2 paychecks, there's 3 paychecks.
Yeah, because of a fifth or whatever.
Right. And so what we've done is, now this gets complicated, I won't get too into the weeds here, but when you take away your weekly cash expenses, you still have a rolling expense you can then siphon off for a project or for a vacation or for Christmas, as an example.
That's what we usually do.
So in the fall, we always have 1 month somewhere that has a little extra money in it. That's our Christmas money.
Yep.
And that way we don't have to stress about it. We know it's taken care of, and we just put that in a savings account. When Christmas happens, we pay off the Visa card, we're done with it.
So essentially we're on a 4-week budget.
Yeah.
And then the fifth is candy.
Fifth, or now it's a weird, 2 paychecks a month, but once in a while there's a third.
Yeah.
So, but the same idea is, if you pay close enough attention, you're going to find extra money. And as Dave Ramsey says, put a name to every dollar. And I think memory should have a place in that. So I want to encourage you to be a little more diligent, a little more aware of where your money's going. Direct more of it to traditions and memories. I think that's really important. The other thing is finding extra money. If you are one of those families that once in a while you have a change in your insurance, you're going to get a rebate check from your insurance company. What do you do with that rebate check? Do you go just wash it into the checking account, and then just sort of disappears and everything? Or do you go, let's put that in savings for our memory fund or our tradition fund? You could have something like that. Side hustles, side jobs. Man, Melissa got a side job last year.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have the money that we do currently have to go help our son who's getting married in Italy in next
May.
year. And we're going to be able to go travel over there. We're helping with the wedding expenses. But it was really all because she took on an extra side job. It was temporary, and it put enough money in our pocket to go, ooh, good, we can save. Now, we gave off of it. We saved off of it. But then we were able to go, now let's also be able to bless with it and bless ourselves and our family with it too. So
and help
side hustles,
college, which
absolutely
was
helping our
good.
daughter with college. I always have something going on the side, and so I'm helping other pastors and church leaders and stuff on the side, and just generating some income that way as well. Tax returns are great. Now, if you have them, and I know that not everybody does, but generally we do. If you're getting a little extra from something like that, don't count on it for living expenses. Count on it for memory expenses. Count on it for enrichment expenses, and put that toward these next trips, memories, next traditions. That you might have. Selling stuff. This has been a big one for us. When you go, in fact, I got freaked out this week. We had too much stuff in our attic, and I was having a coronary. And so I asked our kids, I was like, guys, meet me, in the evening, and we got to go through all this stuff, and I got to clean up the attic because it's driving me crazy. And so we got all the stuff down, and there was this cooler that has a plug-in. And I was like, just give it to Goodwill. And Melissa said, no, let's try to sell it.
Yeah.
Because I want to use that money for Italy. And I was like, okay, that's, we might get $25, $40 or $50 or something. And that's going to go towards something, so you can find money there.
To sell.
Yeah, everybody does. And the last one I'll just mention is air miles. We're big fans of air miles. Yes. And the concept is reward miles from a credit card. Again, if you've got a credit card, our advice would be pay it off at the end of every month. Do not carry a balance on a credit card. Consumer spending is the most foolish spending possible. Consumer credit, the most foolish credit possible, because it racks up so much interest. But when you can find a good rewards card and get those miles, we're going to actually pay for our family to go from New York to Italy next year, but we're going to get free tickets from Portland to New York through air miles. And that's how we've done this many, many times, because
every time.
You're saving thousands of dollars that way just to, by racking up air miles. And so if you plan in advance for a big memory, a big tradition, maybe it's Christmas for you or something like that, you can just go hey, we're gonna do all these expenses on this very good rewards card that has a low annual fee and gives you lots of rewards, and then we're gonna put that toward something that we can do as a tradition or as a memory. Those are just things we've found to fund it.
And Expedia too. We always use Expedia for all of our travel.
Yeah, absolutely.
So because of that, we get points off.
Lots of
we get
Expedia
free
points.
hotels all the time from that. So.
Yeah. So all of these things can add up, and I think that the idea would be, let's get as inventive and as creative and as proactive and aggressive as we can about this aspect of our marriage and family life, which would be creating those traditions that really keep bonding us together. So now, Melissa's an idea factory when it comes to this. So I wanted her to talk a little bit about, where do you even get these ideas?
Okay, well, in closing, I just wanted to mention a few things. So people always say, where do you get the idea to go do that, or go here and see that, or how'd you hear about that? I would just say the first thing is from people you look up to that know how to have fun.
Huh.
I mean, that's my number one, is I watch certain people, I won't name them, but there's 3 or 4 families, couples, that I know that are always doing some cool stuff, and I'm tuned into them. I'm like, where are they at? What are they doing? Where are they going? That kind of thing. Also, social media. I was on social media 2 weeks ago, and my friend Heather posted this thing about a pirate adventure in Sherwood, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to go check that out. So we find stuff all the time on social media. Also, Google. We Google everything. I mean, I'm talking events this weekend, live music, local Christmas lights, anything you can think of that you're curious about, that you want to make maybe a memory or a tradition through the holidays, especially coming up here, Google it. Brainstorm as a couple. What are some traditions we want to do? Where do we want to go? What do we want to see together? Brainstorm as a family. What do your kids want to go see this Christmas? Where do they want to go? What's cool to them? Look at your kids' school calendar. I remember when we had little kids, we did very intentional things with the school. There's bingo night, there's a dance, there's a cultural fair. There's these things that we did every year. Gabe and I would always run the snack bar at the cultural fair, Arrow House Elementary. And we did it for years. Yeah. Because our kids were there for 11 years between all 3 of them. So it was so much fun. Also, we volunteer at the football games at Aloha High School at the concession stands. I mean, it's just fun. That's just a fun thing we do every year. brainstorm. Church calendar. That's my last one. Church calendar. Man, this one's important because you have, like, we just had a pumpkin extravaganza, which is like a thing we do every year. Come to those kind of things. Go to your local church fun things that they do. There's ladies' nights and men's nights and parties and Super Bowl parties. We have a decorate the church thing we do every year. And it's really fun because there's this one couple, Leah and Valentine. They show up every year at the decoration day. What do we call it? Deck the halls.
Yeah.
Every year. They love it. I don't, but they love it. And I think it's so cute. They do it as a couple every year. And they come, they make the church pretty. And that's kind of their thing. So, it's just fun to make traditions. It's fun to do that kind of stuff. And those are some of our ideas. And or you can just shoot me an email and I'll answer your questions.
Awesome. Melissa@westsidemail.com.
Yeah, feel free.
All right, cool. All right, well, thanks for joining us for this. We want to encourage you about next month, which would be next month we're going to talk about how do you make Christmas about Christ? Because Christmas, can be about so many other things, but it's supposed to be about Christ. So join us as we dive into that deep next month.
Yes.
Thanks so much for joining us for today's episode of Marriage Monthly. We want to ask you if you would subscribe to this podcast and share it with 3 people that you know that might also enjoy this content, and it might help build their marriage. We are passionate about building healthy, lifelong marriages, and we want to thank you for being part of this podcast.